So the purpose of this video is to talk about quizzes in Canvas. And quizzes are just another tool that you can use. They are typically graded. They have a little rocket ship icon when you see them in the modules. I've already got one set up here. And just like assignments, you can create them in the module by clicking plus and choosing quiz. Okay, if you already have it set up, you can pick one. If you don't, you can click new quiz. I already have one added, so I'm not going to add that right now. A quiz that's created here will show up over here in quizzes and also up in assignments because a quiz is a type of assignment. But to get it to the module, you have to either add it to the module when you're created or go back and add it in after it's been created. So quizzes are one of those things that when you think of a quiz, you typically think of the sort of thing like a true false multiple choice, maybe some fill in the blank or essay questions, but your typical quiz that you took when you were a kid growing up. But the cool thing about Canvas is you really aren't limited to that. You can, especially for online courses, grading can get out of hand. And there are times when you can set up a quiz to either ensure that the students do something like watch a video or to make sure that they're answering all the questions for what you want to do. So don't be afraid to think out of the box a little bit when you're setting up a quiz. And I've got some examples of that as we show you what you're looking at. So I am now in quiz view, okay? And if I hit, this is what it'll look like when you have it set up. I'm going to hit preview so you can kind of see what the students would see. First of all, don't forget about the instructions. Give that quiz a descriptive name so the students know what the quiz is going to be about. And then give explicit instructions on what the students should be doing, some general information. You don't need to skip that part. It doesn't need to be a novel, but some information. Then you'll have the quizzes here with the different the questions. Types of questions that you've got that the students can answer. And when they're done, they'll hit submit quiz. Or, since we're in preview, I'm going to go to keep editing. So you've got that. When you are editing a quiz, and I'll look at the outside the box questions a little closer as we go through this. The first tab is details, so that's where you would put the quiz instructions, and that's where you would set the criteria for the quiz. Okay, so you can have a practice quiz, a graded survey, an ungraded survey. Probably graded quiz is the most common. If you have assignment groups, you can specify which assignment group you want that quiz to be a part of. You have the option of shuffling the answers. Be careful with that one if you use the multiple choice type questions with like all of the above. All of the above may end up being the first choice, so that's kind of a little crazy. You can set a time limit here and tell it how long they have to take the quiz. Time quizzes are great, but they don't have to be timed. You can think of quizzes in an online course is a learning tool, okay? So while you may hand out a piece of paper when you're teaching face-to-face to quiz the students on if they did their reading or whatever, and you may give them a few minutes to do it, you could go dig a little deeper. Yes, you want to know they did the reading, but you might, let them go back and look up things to reinforce or whatever. So point them towards what you want to learn in the quizzes and then have them go learn it. So that's an okay thing to do if obviously those low stakes quizzes can be a very useful tool. Allow multiple attempts. Okay, if you're doing a low stakes quiz where you're wanting them to make sure they get the content, letting them take it again isn't necessarily a bad thing. And you can specify, do you keep the highest, the latest, the last quiz, the average for that, and you can even specify how many attempts they're allowed. So you've got different options for that. You have also different options on what they can see the results. So it's always a good idea to let them see what they missed. But you can also let them see the correct answer. So maybe if you're giving an online quiz and it closes on, the February 22nd, then you could set it up so that the correct answers would show up on February 23rd after everyone's taken it, so that can help minimize cheating. You do have the option of having them go through one question at a time and not being able to go back, or seeing the whole quiz at once. there's more access code or ITP address that's a little fancier than we need to get to, and you can assign, again, due dates when it's available. Like if you want the quiz only available during a certain time period, you set that here. And then you have this tab here, which is the questions tab. Okay, and if I click show question details, it'll give me a little more information on that. There's different types of questions. This happens to be a text question, which isn't even nothing to answer, but this is one of those outside of the box things I was talking about. Yeah, I have a video that I want to make sure those students watch. It's an important video. So instead of putting it on a page, I could embed it as part of a quiz and then ask questions about that. It could be a little low stakes thing. It could be a just, get credit for it type of thing. But that way, once they watch the video, they answer the questions, I can feel pretty confident that they've watched it. So that's a tool that you've got. As far as question types go, again, you click on new question and you have a lot of options. So multiple choice and true, false, or typical. Fill in the blank is another one. Keep in mind with fill in the blank, whatever you put down as the answer, Canvas will check against what you have. If they have something spelled slightly differently or a typo, it will mark it wrong. So it's a good idea to go back and fill in or fill in the blanks. You've got listed lots of choices: multiple answer, multiple drop downs, matching, numerical answer, formula question, essay question, file upload question where they upload something, and text, which is what I used to put that video in there. So you have lots of different options to you pick the correct answer. You can give feedback depending on the answer. There's a lot that you can do with quizzes. This is the second type. Again, I mentioned outside the box thinking. If you have a set of questions that are all related, you could put them in a quiz format instead of an essay format. That way you can make sure that everything you want the students to address can get addressed. And sometimes it's easier to grade because you can pull things out. If you're reading an essay, the students might get off track. You might have to dig. Whereas if you ask them a specific question, then you can look right in that specific area for the answer. So the last thing I want to show you is when you set up a quiz. Okay, so I'll hit save on that here. And then when you set that quiz up here, it's also going to show up in assignments. Okay, if you've specified a group when you were setting it up, it'll go to that group, which I did right here. If it doesn't, it just shows up under assignments, then you can move it to the correct group. But it won't automatically show up in modules unless you started it there, or you add it manually. Okay, so don't forget that step. And that is it on quizzes. We'll talk about discussions in another video.